This countenance her despised, and put to rout All her array, her female pride deject, Or turn to reverent awe; for beauty stands In the admiration only of weak minds Led captive, cease to admire, and all Her plumes fall flat, and shrink into a trivial toy At every sudden slighting, quite abashed. Therefore with manlier objects we must try His constancy, with such as have more show Of worth, of honour, glory, and popular praise, Rocks whereon greatest men have often wrecked; Or that which only seems to satisfy Lawful desires of nature, not beyond. And now I know he hungers where no food Is to be found, in the wide wilderness. The rest commit to me; I shall let pass No advantage, and his strength as oft assay." He ceased, and heard their grant and loud acclaim; Then forthwith to him takes a chosen band Of spirits, likest to himself in guile, To be at hand and at his beck appear, If cause were to unfold some active scene Of various persons, each to know his part. Then to the desert takes with these his flight, Where still from shade to shade the Son of God After 40 days' fasting had remained, Now hungering first, and to himself thus said: "Where will this end? 4 times 10 days I have passed wandering this woody maze, And human food nor tasted, nor had appetite. That fast to virtue I impute not, or count Part of what I suffer here. If nature need not, Or gods support nature without repast, Though needing, what praise is it to endure? But now I feel I hunger, which declares Nature hath need of what she asks. Yet God can satisfy that need some other way, Though hunger still remain. So it remain without this body's wasting I content me, and from the sting Of famine fear no harm, nor mind it, fed With better thoughts, that feed me hungering more To do my Father's will." It was the hour of night, when thus the Son Communed in silent walk, then laid him down Under the hospitable covert night Of trees thick interwoven. There he slept, and dreamed, as appetite is wont to dream, Of meats and drinks, nature's refreshment sweet. Him thought he by the brook of Cherith stood, And saw the ravens with their horny beaks Food to Elijah bringing even and morn, Though ravenous, taught to abstain from what they brought. He saw the prophet also, how he fled Into the desert, and how there he slept Under a juniper; then how, awaked, He found his supper on the coals prepared, And by the angel was bid rise and eat the second time after repose, The strength whereof sufficed him 40 days. Sometimes that with Elijah he partook, Or as a guest with Daniel at his pulse. Thus wore out the night, and now the herald lark Left his ground nest, high towering to descry The morn's approach, and greet her with his song. As lightly from his grassy couch uprose Our Saviour, and found all was but a dream. Fasting he went to sleep, and fasting waked. Up to a hill anon his steps he reared, From whose high top to ken the prospect round, If cottage were in view, sheepcote, or herd. But cottage, herd, or sheepcote none he saw; Only in a bottom saw a pleasant grove, With chaunt of tuneful birds resounding loud. Thither he bent his way, determined there To rest at noon, and entered soon The shade high-roofed, and walks beneath, And alleys brown, that opened in the midst A woody scene, Nature's own work it seemed, Nature taught art, and to a superstitious eye The haunt of wood–gods and wood–nymphs. He viewed it round, when suddenly a man before him stood, Not rustic as before, but seemlier clad, As one in city or court or palace bred, And with fair speech these words to him addressed: "With granted leave, officious I return, But much more wonder that the Son of God In this wild solitude so long should bide, Of all things destitute, and well I know Not without hunger. Others of some note, As story tells, have trod this wilderness, The fugitive bondwoman with her son Outcast Nebaioth, yet found here relief By providing angel. All the race Of Israel here had famished, had not God Rained from heaven manna, and that prophet bold, Native of Thebez, wandering here, was fed Twice by a voice inviting him to eat. Of thee those 40 days none hath regard, 40 and more deserted here indeed." To whom thus Jesus: "What concludest thou hence? They all had need; I, as thou seest, have none." "How hast thou hunger then?" Satan replied. "Tell me, if food were now before thee set, Wouldst thou not eat?" "Thereafter as I like the giver," answered Jesus. "Why should that cause thy refusal?" said the subtle fiend. "Hast thou not right to all created things? Owe not all creatures by just right to thee Duty and service, nor to stay till bid, But tender all their power? Nor mention I meats by the law unclean, or offered first to idols. Those young Daniel could refuse, nor proffered by an enemy. Though who would scruple that, with want oppressed? Behold, nature ashamed, or better to express, troubled, that thou shouldst hunger, hath purveyed from all the elements her choicest store, to treat thee as beseems, and as her lord with honour. Only deign to sit and eat. He spake no dream, for as his words had end, our Saviour, lifting up his eyes, beheld in ample space, under the broadest shade, a table richly spread in regal mode, with dishes piled, and meats of noblest sort, and savour beasts of chase, or fowl of game, in pastry built, or from the spit, or boiled, grisame or steamed. All fish from sea or shore, freshet or purling brook, of shell or fin, an exquisitest name, for which was drained Pontus, and Lucrine Bay, and Afric coast. Alas, how simple to these cates compared was that crude apple that diverted Eve! And at a stately sideboard, by the wine that fragrant smell diffused, in order stood tall stripling youths rich clad, of fairer hue than Ganymede or Hylas. Distant more under the trees now tripped, now solemn stood nymphs of Diana's train, and naiads with fruits and flowers from Amalthea's horn, and ladies of the Hesperides, that seemed fairer than feigned of old, or fabled since, of fairy damsels met in forest wide by knights of Logres, or of Lyonesse, Lancelot, or Peleus, or Pellinore. And all the while harmonious airs were heard of chiming strings or charming pipes, and winds of gentlest gale Arabian odours fanned from their soft wings, and Flora's earliest smells. Such was the splendour, and the tempter now his invitation earnestly renewed. "What doubts the Son of God to sit and eat? These are not fruits forbidden. No interdict defends the touching of these viands pure. Their taste no knowledge works, at least of evil, but life preserves, destroys life's enemy, hunger, with sweet restorative delight. All these are spirits of air, and woods, and springs, thy gentle ministers, who come to pay thee homage, and acknowledge thee their Lord. What doubtest thou, Son of God? Sit down and eat." To whom thus Jesus temperately replied, "Saidst thou not that to all things I had right? And who withholds my power, that right to use? Shall I receive by gift what of my own, when and where likes me best, I can command? I can at will, doubt not, as soon as thou, command a table in this wilderness, and call swift flights of angels ministrant, arrayed in glory, on my cup to attend. Why shouldst thou then obtrude this diligence in vain, where no acceptance it can find? And with my hunger what hast thou to do? Thy pompous delicacies I contemn, and count thy specious gifts no gifts, but guiles." To whom thus answered Satan, malcontent, "That I have also power to give thou seest. If of that power I bring thee voluntary what I might have bestowed on whom I pleased, and rather opportunely in this place chose to impart to thy apparent need, why shouldst thou not accept it? But I see what I can do or offer is suspect. Of these things others quickly will dispose, whose pains have earned the far-fet spoil." With that, both table and provision vanished quite, with sound of harpies' wings and talons heard. Only the importune tempter still remained, and with these words his temptation pursued. "By hunger that each other creature tames, thou art not to be harmed, therefore not moved. Thy temperance invincible besides, for no allurement yields to appetite, and all thy heart is set on high designs, high actions. But wherewith to be achieved? Great acts require great means of enterprise. Thou art unknown, unfriended, low of birth, a carpenter, thy father known, thyself bred up in poverty and straits at home, lost in a desert here and hunger bit. Which way, or from what hope, dost thou aspire to greatness? Whence authority derivest? What followers, what retinue canst thou gain, or at thy heels the dizzy multitude, longer than thou canst feed them on thy cost? Money brings honor, friends, conquests, and realms. What raised Antipater the Edomite, and his son Herod placed on Judah's throne, thy throne, but gold, that got him puissant friends. Therefore, if at great things thou wouldst arrive, get riches first, get wealth, and treasure heap. Not difficult if thou hearken to me. Riches are mine, fortune is in my hand. They whom I favour thrive in wealth amain, while virtue, valour, wisdom sit in want." To whom thus Jesus patiently replied, "Yet wealth without these three is impotent to gain dominion, or to keep it gained. Witness those ancient empires of the earth, in height of all their